Thank you so much. Very good morning to one and all. And I have the privilege to have the panel here in front of you. This is the first session which you're on. And as you go, we talk about the topic, which is more in terms of changing the landscape of talent acquisition. So I would like to have the opportunity to take on the questions right now. And I'm your moderator, or I would like to do it. Today, in the changing scenario, as we heard, and we talk about the talent, which is the most important thing. How do you actually look at the compensation benefits which attract the talent and retain the talent in the industry? So would you like to take it up, Mr. Niket Gupta?
So the question which I understood is how do you attract a talent and how do you retain a talent? First, the demand is changing drastically. It's not the volume-centric things which you used to within the past. Why do you need to hire and why do you need to even get people onboarded is the first purpose which you need to define very well, and that's where the change is started off. With the advent of technology, with so much of new technology coming in, the skill set or the demands are coming much more sharper, and that's where the talent has to be much more sharper than the demand itself. So the attraction is getting really, really better as we change and for the new technologies. And that's where the whole landscape of hiring is changing to what an individual can bring to the table and how the person can help grow the business. It also translates down that how do you see the person being contributing regularly, and that's where the retention gets easy. So with that, I would say that a lot of these strategies are getting formed. At Myntra, what we do is we ensure that people who get hired are hired for a purpose, for what they need to be done, and every role goes through a rigorous screening before even we get to decide and what we need to hire for. It also helps us in terms of not overhiring, because that's the mistake which most of us would have done. That overhiring is another thing, and that helps in keeping the organization leaner, sharper, and with a purpose.
So just continuing on to the note,
Sure.
as you said, leaner and sharper.
Yeah.
Does it mean that you relook at the resources or the talent pool and then say that look, we need to probably weed it out at some point in time, or we need to probably put them into an NI kind of an environment, and then bring them back onto the track, because it actually also means that the growth of the organization is suffering. So how do you handle that?
So I'll take a step back on that piece. That first of all, why do you need somebody to get into an NI or needs improvement track? If you have done over hiring, if you have not thought through about your hiring before even getting the demand live or getting things out there, that's when these things get started. So it is against the principle of keeping the organizations leaner, sharper. And if that's being done, you will have very less number of people getting into the NI category. And then the regular interventions of training, growing them across. We're moving towards an era where anybody can do any role. And the idea is that how do you grow the organization? If people keep leaving you, you are not growing. Yeah. You're just probably meeting the business targets, but your people are not the same who started with you. So for us, the biggest target is that how sharper we hire, how do we keep them retained, and how do we keep them grow? How much people we are able to grow along with us.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I'll move on to Raghuram and ask you this question in terms of saying that, organically, if you have to build that, as you said, that, there is a potential there. And the potential may not be more in terms of what you actually hired. And suppose you need to really get the talent on, and you'll figure out that there is a talent for something else where the organization benefits and also the individual. So there's a growth path. So how do you steer that, and at what point in time you do that intervention?
So I think Niket has shared some great perspectives. I would like to also contribute to the question you asked before. Right. So there are two parts to that question. One is how do we attract great talent? Second is how do we retain them, right? So there are two parts to it. My role is a little different than the rest of the panel, that all of them are in HR and TA. And I work at RippleHire, which enables talent acquisition professionals to hire top talent. So from our perspective, for example, last year we processed almost 96 million candidates globally. So what we learned from that is great talent uh, needs great candidate experience. And we have seen many companies taken this for granted. In the entire hiring cycle, there are so many points where companies can personalize, companies can do better. So, but then we have seen many TA teams and hiring teams not doing justice to the great talent who they are, hiring for, right? So that is something which we need to put great emphasis. That's one piece which I want to say. Secondly, to retain great talent, I think we need to give them purpose. Great purpose brings great minds together. Secondly, we also need to show them direction. We also need to show them a growth path of the company. That is something which we do very well at RippleHire. We share our vision. We also enable our associates to realize how they can contribute to that vision, quarter on quarter and year on year. And we also let them see that how we value their contribution. And of course, financial compensation is part of that aspect also.
Yeah, thank you. So my next question would be to Debasis, to saying that, post-COVID, there has been a lot of change, especially in the way the resources are placed and also the way they operate. The work environment has changed. So does it have any impact in terms of hiring, especially from Tier 2 or Tier 3 cities, coming over to Tier 1? And if so, then what kind of changes which is actually affected, or is it positive or negative to the organization?
So thank you for having me here. I'll little bit try to put forth, because in the context when we say talent, and not every employee is a talent, but every talent is an employee. That is the context we are talking about. True. So who is a talent? Is it a skill? Is it a will? Is it attitude? Is it competency? Or combination of all these things? Basically, our definition of talent in organizations, basically, I think that need to be redefined in the context of when we are changing. We are talking about a situation, if you look at last 20 years, almost 50% of the Fortune 500 company, I'm talking about Fortune 500 company, they don't exist. Either they are merged, acquired, or cease to exist. We're talking about a situations where if you look at skill is a perishable thing. Skill is not permanent. So when we talk about a person who brings attitude, who brings certain level of drive to a systems, and we talk about a supply chain workplace, a talent, if I'm talking from a skill perspective, sitting outside and sitting inside the organizations. So these are the two contexts when we see, basically assuming that we define talent and they're sitting somewhere else, maybe in the market, within the organization's workplace. So what is our mechanism to attract? We are moving from a positioning of acquisitions, talent acquisitions, to talent attractions. The modality is basically how do I put forth an environment which attracts them? If I don't feel that as a commodity, because commodity need to be acquired. When we say talent, it need to be attracted. So the questions when we are talking about in a situations last maybe 4 or 5 years post-COVID, because when we are talking about post-COVID, purpose need to be redefined, and in a situations where there has to be a level of flexibility within the workplace, there has to be a redefinition of why I'm existing in this earth. Is it only to work, or do I have something bigger in my life to contribute to the society and to myself as a part of things? So I think that renegotiation is happening. So when you look at from the perspective of an organizations, particularly in this scenario, you have a supply chain in these things where almost around close to 5 lakhs, if I say management graduate, or 50 lakhs engineering graduate coming to your workplace, there is a limitations of 10% absorptions in the organizational workplace. You need to define as a talent how I can look at my next 5 years, because skills are changing. As I told, those are perishables. We started from C, C++, Java, and now we're talking about something else in that line. And not that every time you will be changing that. You have to have your relevance. When there is a newspaper, there is a electronics media also coexisting. So we are talking about a scenario of how I can able to coexist, how I can able to contribute. And I think the expectations from the organizational perspective is to create that environment which attracts multi-generations talent. It is not that only one generation talent will contribute, because it is experience versus agility. How do you create systems which take care of those things? Or from a talent perspective, when I'm trying to look at, I wanted to serve the purpose, I wanted to put some part of my budget to create those purpose and system, but at the same time, how do I basically give them a platform? Because the challenge is the life cycle. Because 3 years, 4 years, nowadays when we are talking about, we started from a manufacturing era, 15 years, then we went into a service era. Now, I don't know, maybe lifetime is around 1 year, 2 years.
Yeah, that's
So I
right.
think-
That's true. I mean, you're absolutely right in saying so. So, because, for example, you take telecom, and otherwise you take even IT space itself. You know, it's fast changing. The landscape is changing. So, what happens is the resources which are very good today in India, you find these resources, on the contrary, because hiring is a negotiation process, you find that they want to operate from, remote locations because they are looking for easing out themselves, probably a little more relaxed environment, and not into the hushy-bushy, because all of us know very well, if suppose we had to come to this venue on time, most of us could not make it just because of the traffic conditions. So tier 1 cities are mostly jammed. So therefore they want to be in tier 2, tier 3, and then they want to operate from there. So what I wanted to actually bring this point is that they want to work from their own place and environment with their own kind of terms and conditions. But yet your organization has a mandate to saying that, look, we have to do. So how flexible are you in terms of really hiring that? And then do you mend your policies? Because the standard policies don't allow you to hire them.
So the core is talent. If the company is going to a workplace or those people are coming to an organization, basically that's a supply chain issues in terms of tapping a right talent. I think situations are changing. Almost all organizations are looking at cost efficiency, but there are certain level of layering, because when we talk about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, without getting into that discriminations mode, there is certain level of layering when we talk about communications, when we talk about the drive, delivery, and all sort of things. I think those aspects is taken care of, and if I'm getting a resource, I think that should be.
Thank you for that. And I would like to move on to the next panel member, which is here we have Beenal with us. I would like to ask you, if we have to really go about retaining a particular talent, and we have to give this internal job rotation, as we heard from the keynote speaker, actually how difficult it is when you hire remotely and then you want a remote hiring resource to work with you. How do you do that? How do you actually implement that?
Thank you for this question, and thank you Business World for making this event happen. I think the question that we are raising right now is the time when AI has played a very important role. Today, we talk about people working out of tier 3 or even the farthest of those cities that we're talking about. Even though these people are able to support not even the national agenda, but international agendas as well. We just spoke about, and we are all aware about the GCCs being made in India, right? In such a format, do you think that it's important that everyone has to be in a metro city and then only a job rotation can happen? No. Because today, AI has taken its own way. There are digital skill sets, there are collaboration tools. The projects have decentralized themselves, which makes it very easy for anybody to work from anywhere. It's not only about metro, but it's also about the other cities, the rural areas. Digital has made it so easy that the line between the metro and the rural area is gone. Today, I mean, if I talk about my company, I come from energy sector, so my solar panel, the solar lands are just way far. They are right outside, the most farthest of the India cities that you can talk about. However, it is excellent. It's amazing to see the kind of solar professionals, the engineers, these professionals, they are coming out from these rural areas. And they are not only helping India agenda, they are helping the global agenda. It's only because of these digital tools. So if I mix it with the previous question, COVID has taught us a lot. Let's understand this. It's made us, it's making us evolve the culture. Even it is force-fitted, or if you've liked it or no. But let's remember, today talent is looking at autonomy. They're looking at a place where they can be heard. So having these kind of partitions will not make. We've already proved ourselves, we are doing really well, and I think let's progress on those lines. That's what I can talk about.
Thank you so much. And how do you take this question? I mean, I would like to go on to any one of you very randomly, that there is some kind of a demography divide in terms of within the pan India. There's some people who are not very comfortable from the east to the west, the east to the south, more because of their own priorities, personal priorities, you can say. So how do you actually go about dealing that during the hiring process?
So I think technology is a great lever, over the last few years. And this COVID definitely accelerated this process. There is a set of people who follow the natural migration pattern, we have seen this right from the agricultural, work. People migrate from one part of the country to greener pastures for looking for work, and white collar workers also do the same. They used to do, but now there is a growing realization that talent is choosing increasingly where they are able to get better work-life balance, where they are able to get, let's say, better cost of living ratio, where they're able to be closer to their extended family, where they can happily, raise their children, etc. Right? So there are other considerations coming to play. So organizations these days, they have great technology. In fact, RippleHire, we enable our clients to use our ATS to hire remotely, and we enable TA teams to use several interventions to make it possible, to right from finding the right resource, doing the entire recruiting workflow, to offering and whatnot. So for growing organizations, progressive organizations who would value talent for what they are, there are numerous tools available in the market to break that demographic part, and yeah.
Yeah, I think I think you're right in saying so, because there has been that kind of a change which has come into play.
Yeah.
So if I have to take this question on, probably you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so I'm from a real estate company, and when we see real estate, we are only talking about 6 cities in India. But if I go back and look at the customer base, are they from the 6 city? So they are across, I think. Similarly, if you look at, my institute is sitting in certain part of India. But the question, see, as I told, basically, if there is a talent, you need to attract that as an organization.
Absolutely.
It is the ability to communicate from the institution perspective, whether you are participating in an NIR ranking or World QS ranking or SCR ranking. So there is a way of marketing. You need to understand, is it related to your curriculum, or is it related to your kind of quality of students? Is it related to the issue of marketing?
I think you're saying positioning.
You need to position it better. You need to have those connects. And in the technology area, I think there is an ease of, communicating and ease of understanding. So I think that ecosystems need to be created, because if the absorption is in particular cities, how you wanted to make them connected to those things, that enablement has to happen.
So good. I think just about what you said, if I have to take an extended part of that, AI and predictive analytics, we have been using now in HR, and we've been using it at quite an intensity. So before the technology and after the technology, I mean, not that what has been good about it. I think we need to understand what are the challenges behind it. So would you like to relay those kind of thoughts in terms of challenges?
So when we talk about AI, basically AI we have been using in many forms, in many formats, basically bringing it to the people dynamics and people analytics for the betterment of the organizations itself. Because ultimately, the ultimate purpose when we are trying to look at it is to make somebody successful. Because as a HR professional, we say that, okay, we may be talking from hiring to retire, but ultimately what we are doing, we are trying to make the people successful in the organizations, and making the organization successful ultimately. So that is the ultimate objective. In that scenario, you are saying that there is a layer which is bringing certain level of data curations, data minings, and bringing a level of intelligence to the system.
Yeah.
Overall, it is about enabling you to do better, enabling you to do things efficiently. I think I'm not getting into which AI and what is the space of how it is going to grow.
The many of them.
On those lines, those are a lot to debate on those things. But as a systems, when I'm saying that I'm a tech-savvy organization, means I'm putting people and technology together in terms of the betterment. There is a level of intelligence which is coming from the tech side. And I think it is in coexistence, in collaborations. When I'm talking about before getting into the predictability or something, if I can able to produce my last 5 years trend in different scenario, can I predict my attritions? Can I predict my stay in the organizations?
Yeah.
Can I look at and say that my hiring efficiency is improving based upon certain technology and system? My reward efficiency, my performance efficiency.
That is where my question was also to saying that, sometimes when you're hiring a human resource, it has a lot to do with the emotions and also the motivation and the feelings. But when you use technology on top of it, so what happens is, if you're a little biased more on technology and you lose the human element, probably we're not able to give way to the motivation. And the retention, therefore, of the individual, who is a human being at the end of the day, is very difficult to do so. So if you get too driven in technology, then they will probably recede from where you want them to go. So that's my point. That's exactly where I was
Next
hitting.
5-10 years, I think we may be having algorithm with us, maybe as a manager, maybe as TPR, maybe as team member. So some algorithm will be sitting with us as some format in terms of robotic process or AI or whichever format it will come to us in down the line 10 years. That is the way we have to look at. But as I said, it is coexistence. It is not competitions. It is coexistence.
Coexistence. Yeah, I got the point.
I would like to.
Yeah, please go ahead. One of you.
Yeah, so the morning I was having a conversation with Niket. In fact, as I earlier mentioned, we did close to 96 million candidates last year. So we took a close look at 100K odd interviews over the last 6 months or so. We did use machine learning and AI to trigger some insights out of this 100K interviews. The surprising insight, so you're mentioning the human element is required.
Yeah.
I'm talking only from an interview perspective, okay? So humans are terrible at interviews. You know why? We are biased. We don't come on time. And most importantly, as interviewers, we also impose our knowledge on the poor candidates. And that poor fellow, they have no option but to bear with the interviewers.
Yeah.
So this is a great insight. So, and this just out of this 100K interviews, okay? And if you were to go back and scale it to millions of interviews, which we had in our system, I'm sure, the results would be similar, although the percentages may vary. So we got something, we launched an AI interview agent called ENGIE to solve this problem. It is being adopted now. So we have to strike a balance between the human element and the technology. And we need to probably let data challenge some of the assumptions we have. So obviously, for retention and for the entire hiring process, humans are very important. It gives a great candidate experience. But we need to leverage technology where it matters, and we can free up humans for do more strategic work. So that's my perspective.
Very well said, Raghu. In fact, Myntra is a technology company. We all know that we have enabled a lot of things like shopping, which was not, ever dreamt that we will do it on an app or a technology. We are a technology first company. And what we have seen as a change, and I agree to Raghu's point that we as humans are very terrible at doing interviews. How well we use technology, how well are we leveraging technologies? And I'll take 2 points on this. One is about how well we do the predictive analytics and identify whether we are doing right or wrong. How do we use technology, not from the ATS standpoint? There are multiple other tools available which you should use. And it also should be read by the organization in a way that, hey, is your workforce or is your is your employee feeling right or feeling heard? If you don't have that mechanism, you will be just awaiting a disaster to happen. Like a classic example, if an employee is not happy and you only get to know when they resign or they have an intent to resign, they've already made up their mind. At Myntra, we have a predictive analytics which let us know in advance that which sector, which particular team could have a lot of attrition and why. It's definitely using AI, a lot of tools, but it helps us to decide better, retain better, and definitely when we understand that why people are leaving, and one of the reasons which came out that hey, we're a creative company, we're a fashion company, people want the freedom to work. Can we force them to come all 5 days a week? To what my co-panelists made a point that today the workforce want freedom, they want the flexibility to deliver. This workforce which we are dealing with today comes with a lot of ownership. And if the organization is not exhibiting ownership, they will always move on. And that's what the AI is helping, or I will not say AI, just AI is just a new fad. AI has been there for long. It is too much commercialized now. It's on everybody's mind. But it has been helping the industry change the way we operate, the way we have been functioning. So it helps us to understand the employee pulse better, make decisions better, help our customers deliver, and track our employees' performance. So, if you say, hey, the employee is working remotely, but is my work getting done? Yes, fine, fair enough. I have no issues about it. So that's what technology is helping us out.
So that's where AI is more of a speed enabler.
Yes, it's a speed
in
enabler.
terms of hiring process.
Yes.
And that is true for all of us. I mean, that's a good thing.
Prakash, it's not just about that speed enabler in the employee workforce. It translates down to good business.
Yeah.
A lot of us are now using AI for business. For
So
us, we know which particular garment or which particular trend can be the next buzz in the industry. So yeah.
And the employee preparedness or the organization preparedness to the market
Yes.
in terms of delivery. That's what also is
It improves.
getting enabled through this process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So irrespective of the sector where we are, I think that's the key. How you actually move in and not just to try to manage what you're doing good today. Because I think constant thrust is how the organization can go into that block where it can be into the first, second, third, irrespective of whichever sector of the organization is. So in the whole effort, you obviously want the employees to gear up from what they have been doing today to the next level. So taking them to the next level is definitely a challenge because you always talk about the change management process within the organization. So until the preparedness of the mindset is not there, it cannot happen. So AI can actually do that because in some ways we also do a fast tracking of talent, saying that, okay, my 100 employees, I think earlier we heard this, the keynote speaker talking about it, saying that we have identified and we have put them to executive coaching and the top 100 of the organization are going to move. So the idea is that they're going to be change, agents of the organization and drive. So in one way or the other, I think it's important that AI to be used in not just hiring, but also in a continuous process of progression of the employee engagement. I'm sure you will agree with that. But I would like to come back to one of the thoughts here, which is to saying that while there is so much of all of that is happening, if you look at, you said about attrition, and that is where I would like to extend this question, is there is something what's called as a natural attrition and forced attrition. Now today, with the technology coming in and AI coming in, is the forced attrition being more or the natural attrition is being more? How do you see in your organization? I mean, all of you being different from each other in terms of the workplace. So how does this work?
So it is a difficult questions basically when you
I know,
look at.
I know. I'm
because,
asking very.
When we talk about forced attritions or company initiated, it comes from very different perspectives. Your performance standard maybe is X. Now I'm expecting X plus 30%. Maybe in certain scenario it was relevant. In this changing context, it may not be. Maybe skill is changing. So the relevancy, because it's all about fitment and relevancy. Fitment from an employee perspective, that how this organization is taking care of me in terms of my overall perspective. And from the organization's perspective, when we're talking about that, what is the minimum acceptable standard in whichever format it is, whether it is when we're trying to look at. So AI can help you to look at it. You rightly said, basically in terms of your predictability, when you are trying to do a stay interview or stay feedback, or you are trying to look at from your engagement data or any sort of things when you're trying to look at from the perspective, so you can get some insights. But how the organization is working on those things? If my reward parity for a particular role and there is a demand role, because if I'm hiring a Python and if I'm hiring a Java guy, both with 5 years of experience, maybe
Yeah.
skill wise they are competent. Demand and supply are different for that particular skill. So how we created that particular factor to those pay parity? Maybe because that's the demand. In our scenario, when we are trying to take a persons from a constructions management and project management, two different outcomes when
Perspectives
we're trying to look at from that scenario. So attritions, if I say company initiated, it will increase because of the demand and supply of that business relevance also, because some policy change, you are exporting to particular country, now there is what we're seeing basically, that may affect in certain forms. But in general, the organization's ecosystem is that how do I make my workforce productive? How can they be relevant? If not today, tomorrow, are they willing to come back to me?
Yeah. So
So
there's a
that is
revisit.
things what
There's
we're
a
trying to look
revisit
at.
there.
Yeah.
Revisiting what you have set out.
See, the attrition is always a factor of the market. If the markets are good, attrition will increase. You probably have very less controls over it. If the markets are bad, the attrition will always be reduced. It's a factor. We
It's an
all
influencer
saw,
there.
yeah, it's an influencer. We all saw that the Great Resignation, the 2022, the markets were crazy, and it went into a correction right after that. Now you need to understand what is the purpose you're given to the person who's getting hired, and if you're very very selective and very very focused on why you are hiring, that why has to be answered at the first level of hiring. If you do a mistake there, it will have ripple effects. And that's what it leads to a forced attrition, a company initiated attrition, because you're somewhere gone wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. And would you like to add?
I just want to say one line that AI is used positively to do a smart workforce planning. And in
Yeah.
case we are not doing it well, that leads to forced attrition. So it can't be directly linked, but yeah, it can be used as one of the tools.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Beenal. I think you have really summarized it, the whole thing. So coming back to the next part is, if you look at the organizations today, most of them we talk about either hiring them from the industry itself. Otherwise, we are now talking about using feeders, which is academic institutions, and then saying that, look, let's go into a collaborative mode and unwind our format of what we are looking for, and then engage into that collaborative process and see how it actually evolves. Some of them are very clear and saying that, look, we customized our requirement and then we'll run that and then we'll take them from there. So is it something which is really working, or is it still work in progress? How would you like to share the thought?
So maybe I can talk about again the energy sector, renewable sector where I'm coming from. As you all know, it's rapidly transforming. We have a government mandate to be a net zero country in a certain years of time. So by 2030, we are talking about being a 500 gigawatt. And by 2070, we are talking about being a net zero. With this rapid transformation, what we are limiting is the availability of skill sets. So obviously, every renewable sector has started to look at different ways of sourcing employees. To be honest, 90% of these companies are only adding people, because of which we are already very less in terms of people. We don't have people in energy sector. We don't have that skill sets available. So we are going out in the market. We are hiring people from different tiers, cities. We are going out to the colleges. Very recently, we've hired about 24, 25 trainees who will be taking up permanent positions with us in next 1 year's time. We are looking at even giving the skill, collaborating with skill development centers and making people market ready to be able to pick up jobs in places where the solar panels are there, like the most remote areas. So there are these different avenues being started. It is also important to know that organizations are using different methods. Like today, ma'am said about people, thinking about their own promotion. So moving within these skill sets. Yes, this is something we need to get started. I'm not saying we have started, but organizations are going towards that. They're talking about employees to go ahead with their own promotions in the very focused manner, or maybe take up other roles. So this way we have a lot of culture mix and movements as well. So yeah.
Thank you. That's really a good thought which you have shared. So one thing what we're saying is today in the marketplace, the competency or the skill is not available, and how we actually acquire that at the fastest mode, because we need to have that collaboration, without which we cannot sustain, because the goal will not be achieved. But on the downside, there are certain risks of hiring. So how do you mitigate those risks? Because there are risks of saying that the whole thing what you plan might fall out. So what's the backup plan there?
Risk of hiring meaning
Meaning you went in for such kind of a skill or competency in terms of setting up a center of excellence, or getting on to that customizing of the program, and somehow it did not yield to the desired result. As a result, you are not able to take them to delivery, and therefore there is a fallout of the objective or the goal.
But we are also making them market ready. Today, they are not only, when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about doing a CSR, we are making them market ready by building them. Today, when we have trained about 600 students for that matter, we didn't take them. We actually created a marketplace where companies came in and they absorbed them. So we have made them market ready for a larger good. So again, it goes back to the point, organization with a purpose. Employees want to get into organization with purpose, because outside any organization is ready to give any kind of money. So be an organization with a purpose. Gen Zs come with a mindset. They're looking for fairness. They're looking for a purpose, and that's where they want to get into.
Thank
I think
you.
this is what
Prakash,
we should
I'll
go
add
for.
up on a
Yes.
point.
Please go ahead.
In terms of campus, probably 15, 20 years back, internship was just a mode of getting some bit of exposure. Over 20 years, it has changed in a way that internship is now looked at, how do I get myself ready for tomorrow? How do I prep myself better? And even the students are ready to be trained during their internship. That's like extended engineering or extended course of yours. And across organizations where I have worked, I've seen interns coming in more curious. They're ready to experiment, learn. I've had people from Centurion University as well, and the way they have come in and absorbed themselves, and to the point what my fellow panelists said, it's okay if you don't observe them, you're making them market ready. The degree will help them get the basic education. The internship, that exposure will help them get themselves ready. Okay, so that's the change which we have seen. Now, internship is no longer looked as an academic requirement. It's a need of the hour, where a lot of universities are coming forward to jointly collaborate, create, these kind of programs, whether it be a train the trainer, the professor connect, or the professor of practice for that matter. Yeah. And it is helping both academia and the industry to meet that skill gap and be ready on day one.
So that's exactly where I was also hitting at, to saying that there are various formats of engagement which was not there before, and today it had to be created, not because for the organization, but also from the user side, how they want to engage with us. So it is fast changing, and here there's somebody else. You might be having an objective to train someone, but then someone else is eyeing on it. And as we heard from Beenal saying that you are actually doing a larger context and not only from your context. So you're willing to let go of that resource, but you're actually creating a lot more awareness in the marketplace. So you're widening the market and bringing a new competency which doesn't exist before. So you are a market leader in that way, right? Okay. So the other probably I don't know if we are running out of time, and we are already through. Is it so? Yes. We need to pack up. Okay, so I'll take the last question and then probably pack it up. So it's interesting to understand that, if you look at today's hiring from a cultural point of view, from coming from a diversified country like India, there are cultural influences and strong mindsets. How do you deal that during the hiring process? Because it has changed now than before. For example, somebody says, I want to be more into work from home, format, while the organization might have changed it, but then he's still stuck to it. So how do you really mitigate that? Because you can't let go, because it's a niche resource, and it is not easy to be, available. So how do you go about it?
So every few decades, what you're seeing, if you look into the history, and history teaches us whatever we need to know. Somebody has solved that problem in one format or the other. So we are at an inflection point now. Time has changed drastically. Technology is evolving in a faster way than it has been earlier. So are people's aspirations, right? So especially when you look at the new hires, the Gen Zs, I believe their aspirations are clear. I always, my team is entirely populated by Gen Z, so I get to learn from them every day or the other, and I see them as more focused. And so if the resource is a niche resource, and it's a critical resource,
Yeah.
so it's important that, and such resource are not made just like that, those resources are limited. So it's important for organizations who value such resources to go all out of the way and make them comfortable, whether you offer them hybrid mode or remote work or whatever, right? So one of my colleagues has to pick up his daughter at 3 p.m. From the bus stop. So I let him do that. Rather, it's not me who let him, he just go and do. So if we need to retain such resources, right, and we need to create a conducive environment for that resource to work with us. Otherwise, such valuable resource just fly away and then go to wherever they are valued. That's my take.
Thank you so much, Raghuram, on that.
I have just one point to add. See, we all are summed up of our experiences, and that forms biases. How do we come over biases was one of your points.
Yeah.
And the fact what Raghu mentioned, that we cannot. As humans, this is what separates us from machine. We have some bit of our own emotions and experiences. How do you use technology? What are the things you're bartering with? Like Raghu, you classically mentioned that. What are you bartering with? Whether the niche resource versus your, fundamentals of having somebody every time in office. So that's a decision which one has to do. Help technology or use technology to help you do that. Come out of the biases, come out of the mindset, can be challenged. There are multiple things available which you can use and say, hey, you know what? I know that it could be against what my thought process is, but the person could be a great addition to the team. And then you constantly track this out.
Yeah. That's right. So, please go ahead.
My point will be business is all about for the people and by the people, because we are trying to look at from the perspective of the things from a people perspective. So when we are talking about biases, can we eliminate it? No, I don't think so. It can be eliminated. Can we manage it to a point? That's where technology is coming into picture. So I think as an organization, as the leaders, we need to look at the work environment and work methodologies. I think that is the place where we can make those things balanced.
And bring flexibility there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to? Okay.
I just want to add one point. I had somebody in my team who had joined the organization after a gap of 13, 14 years. She had a need to stay back at home, and she has stayed back at home, which is as against the actual policy of our organization. She's performed so well. She's even won recognition from our organization. So it doesn't really limit anything. Anything is possible.
Thank you. So it's been wonderful interacting with each one of you, and thank you for your valuable time. And I think we have some of the recalling which we have done during the course of this panel discussion, where we can take some takeaways and thoughts in terms of how we can look at leveraging, because today's workforce is far more intelligent, focused, more into attention. But if we do not deal with it properly, probably they will fly off and they will find a better place. And that's what is coming out of this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.